So if you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you know that last year I installed these Rob2 Pro driving lights from Colite on my Triumph Tiger 1200 GT Explorer. Now, the reason I did that is because I wanted some lights that were going to make me more visible, primarily during the day. I don't do a lot of night driving, but I wanted to be more visible during the day. So these lights so far have done the trick. Now these Rob2 Pro lights, while they have two LEDs in them, they have a single type of lens that's associated with the lights. You can get them in a diffuse pattern, which is what I have here for a wide range, or you can get them either as a flood or a spotlight. Now, as I mentioned, I wanted these lights for daytime visibility, so I went with a diffuse pattern to give me, again, the widest distribution. Now, while that single diffuse pattern has been great for me and the Rob2 Pro lights, Colite has something new out. This is the LA5. It has 5 LEDs and 3 different beam patterns built into one lens. So if I zoom in here on this lens, you can see that the bottom 2 LEDs, they produce a diffuse pattern. That is a 45-degree angle beam that will cover close to the bike and give you a wide view of the road. These top lenses here, they give you more of a flood pattern, right? So that is up to like a 30-degree beam. And that third light in the center there, well, that's a spotlight. That will allow you to see up to 200 or 300 feet up the road. So if you look at the Colite website, they claim that these lights will put out about 1 lux of light out to 1,000 meters. Well, that's 3,200 feet, more than a half a mile. And while technically maybe there is some light out there that far, I doubt that it's going to be usable to most of us riders, right? We're going to be looking at something that will light up the road probably around 500 to 600 feet, and I think these lights should do that. But we'll see when we hook them up at night and see how far they go. Another cool thing about these lights is that they are available with a flashing harness. So if flashing lights are going to bother you, I suggest you turn off the video at this time, because I'm going to show you how those work. So first, you can turn the lights on and get a normal beam pattern to light up the road, but you can also cycle through these flashing modes. Now there are a number of these different modes, right, that you can go through that are all cool, but to be honest with you, I'm not really sure how much good they do. If you're in a parade situation, something like that, okay, I get it, right? Or if you're in traffic and you want to set one of these modes up to flash and alert people that you're coming through, well, again, that's cool. But I don't see any way to set them and then have the system remember what your setting was. You just have to cycle through them every time you want to use it. Other than that, you can hit this button and you can flash, or you can hook this up to your horn, and every time you honk, right, then the lights will flash. Now these LA5 lights are also water resistant. They are made to be submerged up to 3 feet, right, for up to 30 minutes. So under normal riding conditions, these should work just fine for you. I know that my Rob2 Pro lights, I have taken them through some pretty bad downpours and they've held up great. Keep working for me. So let's talk about costs now. These LA5 lights from Colite, they retail for $95 out on their website. They also have a coupon code for 15% off right now, so make sure you look at that if you're interested in buying one of these. Now you can also pick up this flashing wire harness for about $32. And the way that would work is that you would want to order that separately. So add the lights without a wiring harness and then go and add the flashing harness. Right? And if you're going to put this on a motorcycle, I suggest you do that. Even if you don't want to hook up the horn, well, still use this harness because it is really the one that's made to go on a motorcycle and it works really well. Right, so your total cost then should be around $130 or just under $130 for these lights. Again, that is before taxes and shipping, of course. Now that $130 price, well, that sounds like a really good deal, right? Well, if you look at something like a Denali, right, they have a comparable set of lights that they call the DR4, right? And you can get a harness that allows you to do this horn flashing functionality as well. If you add all that together, well, you're going to be spending over $600 for that set of lights. So I guess the question then comes up, how can a $130 set of lights work as well as a more than $600 set of lights? Now, I had the same questions when I first got my Rob 2 Pros. Right? It cost me about $200 to come up with my own wiring harness and my own way to mount the lights. And if you're interested in what I did, right, you can go out to my website and check out that article. I'll link to it in the description of this video. And while I've only had these Rob 2 Pros for one riding season, as I said, I have put them through the mill pretty well. Right? I've taken them on some long trips, I've taken them through some torrential rains, again, and they've held up really well for me so far. Now, you'll have to check back with me in a year or two to see if they're still working, but again, so far, I'm really impressed with them. Now, while of course that durability question is going to remain up in the air until I can really answer it, I can say that for me, the cost of these lights and the functionality that I see as I test them makes it worth giving them a shot. Right? For 130 bucks, right, even if they don't work after a couple of years, right, I haven't spent that much money, and I can always go to the more expensive Denalis or Clearwaters or Cyclops lights later on down the line. So let me give you a couple things that you should know before buying these lights. First, they are Chinese, and they are coming from China if you order them from the Colite website. So it takes a little bit of time. Right? It took me about 3 weeks before I received my Rob 2 Pros, and it took about 3 weeks before Colite told me they were going to send me these to test out to the time that I got them. I have a couple of friends who have purchased the Colites after watching my review, and they also received their lights in about 3 weeks. So remember that these are literally coming on the slow boat from China. Another concern with buying a product like this is customer support. Right? What if something goes wrong? Well, I've interacted with customer support from Colite a couple of times, asking them questions about these lights, and so far they have been very responsive to me. Now, of course, I didn't have to return the lights or anything like that, but they have been able to answer my questions, and they were more than happy to help me out. Now, another thing you need to be aware of is that for motorcycle installations, they kind of are limited in the kind of mounts that they have. The mount that I'm using here to put them on this 1.5" PVC is kind of a universal clamp that they would normally use on some kind of off-road vehicle, you know, with a big roll cage, something like that, a Jeep, a truck, those kinds of things. You can use them on like a 1-inch, you know, crash bar, but they are kind of big and bulky and honestly not very attractive. They seem to work very well, but again, they don't look very nice. So you may end up needing to make your own mounting system. And that's what I did when I mounted the Rob 2 Pros on my Tiger. And as I said earlier, you can go out to my website and read about what I did, and for a very reasonable price was able to come up with a really cool custom mounting system. And lastly, before we turn these things on and see how they work, let's talk about that wiring harness again. Because as I mentioned, there's only a couple of different harnesses for motorcycles out there. And really, there's only one that you're going to want to get with these lights or with any of the Colite systems, right? And that is this unit that they sent me that includes that flashing option that hooks up to your horn. If you go to the Colite website and you order these lights and you click the button that says send me the harness, well, the one that you're going to get is more appropriate to a car or off-road vehicle. All right, so don't do that. Just order the lights, add them to your cart, and then go and use the link that's in the description of this video and order the harness separately that includes this horn wiring option. right? It's going to be much more appropriate to your motorcycle. And if you don't want to use the horn, wire, well, then just don't use it, right? Coil it up, stash it away, and it'll be there in case at some time in the future you want it, right? But you'll still get the flashing option by use of the little remote control button. And while we're talking about the harness, I have to also tell you that the instructions for mounting all this stuff and hooking up the harness, well, they basically don't have anything. Out there on the website, you will see a little image that you can see how to wire them up, right? And that's about all they have. They don't have any written documentation on how to wire in these harnesses. However, it's really pretty simple. And if you've ever done anything like this before on your motorcycle, again, it's really easy. Basically, you just hook the hot and the ground to your battery, right? And then there's a trigger wire, right? In this case, this harness has a red trigger wire, right? And then you would put that to a keyed accessory wire of some kind on your bike, right? And where you put that is going to be different on each motorcycle. Right, then there's going to be a yellow wire that would go to your horn, again, if you want to use that feature. And that's it. It's really pretty simple. All right, so let's take this outside, see how they work in the dark. So I think that pretty much covers it for these two lights. We have the Denali DR1s that I use kind of as my benchmark, and you can see that they go out, well, about 450 feet at least, because that was that far row of trees that you could see out there. The LA5s, well, they also reached out to those trees, and from just looking at it with my naked eye, not through the camera, I thought they were as equally as bright, if not a little bit brighter than the Denalis at that kind of a distance. One thing that was a big difference to me is that those Denalis, being a spotlight, right, they didn't have much coverage up front, right, near me, which would be in front of the bike. Right, whereas the co-lights, those LA5s, well, they had a very wide pattern, closer to me. They really illuminated my driveway much better, right, all the way out to the end of it than did the Denalis. And again, at distance, I think they were kind of equal. So, like I said, I'm pretty impressed with these lights, especially for the price, right? For $130, right, they pretty much match those $400+ lights. So, all right, I'm going to leave it up to you at this point. Again, go out and do your research, all right, and you decide whether you think this is worth trying. All right, guys, talk to you next time. Ride safe. Keep squeezing your lemon.